The daughter was always there. Hunter was always there, right? And they know Vince inside out. And I still think Vince is sitting behind the scene.
When you think of professional wrestling, often you think about the serious mat technicians. And then, on the other end of the spectrum, there are the Bushwhackers. During their WWE run in particular, Luke and Butch were the most outrageous, the most entertaining team out there. And now, they are going to be telling their story with Mr. John Crowther in a book called Blood, Sweat and Cheers, that you can get on Amazon and a lot of other places like Barnes and Noble and Walmart. So, congratulations to the two of you. How are you feeling on the launch of this book?
I'm feeling very good, mate. The start of this, the kickstart we had went off like a bomb. We had people coming in very fast, and we did very great. We did very good on the kickstart. And now we're going worldwide with Amazon and looking forward to getting the book way up in the in drawing power. You know, there's a few books been out that have been number one in the wrestling scene, but we'd like to get up there with those books.
Yeah, it's been a real, as Luke said, it's been a real success so far. We did a Kickstarter that just really, brought in people from all over the globe. And since we've been on Amazon, we've only been on Amazon about 3 weeks. And earlier this week, we actually peaked at number 7 in wrestler biographies. So, but there's always room for more, obviously. We'd love to see that book hit number 1.
And I'm sure it'll get there. But John, speaking of you as a fan, I mean, could you tell our audience about your background? And were you a fan of the Bushwhackers growing up?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I grew up a fan of pro wrestling back in the 70s, which kind of dates me a little bit. I grew up in Florida here in the United States, and a big fan of championship wrestling from Florida. And as a kid, I remembered Luke and Butch coming in to Florida, not as the Bushwhackers, but actually as the sheep herders. For those who don't know a lot about their background, you can read a lot about it in the book, but they were one of the most vicious tag teams ever to step foot in a ring when they appeared as the sheep herders throughout many of the NWA territories. So I was a big fan of theirs from that time. And then a few years ago, I actually started writing comics. So I was a comic book writer, writing for such publishers as Heavy Metal Magazine and Anarctic Press. Mm-hmm. And I decided to start doing some biographies on pro wrestlers in comics, and which led to Luke and I getting into a discussion about writing, which I kind of laughingly call a real book. And we did the Bushwhackers autobiography. So it's 372 pages of amazing stories that cover their entire 50 years in the ring.
That is absolutely fantastic. And I know that a lot of other wrestlers like Hulk Hogan, like our good friend Gerry Brisco, they are a part of this project as well, right? So how did you convince? Yeah, please go on.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to kind of tell people how the process worked, every Wednesday night, kind of like what we're doing right now, for about a year and a half, Luke and Butch and I would go on a live broadcast like this, just the three of us, with Butch actually in New Zealand, and we would talk for about 2 hours or so. I'd record it, and we would just talk wrestling and about their lives, leading through their entire careers. And as they would tell me stories and bring up different men and women from their career, whether it be like a Gerry Brisco or Hulk Hogan or Rip Rogers, I mean, it goes on and on. I would jot down their names and make it a point to reach out to these individuals, and that's what I did. So there's about close to 25 different wrestlers spanning their entire careers that have contributed stories or quotes or memories to the book. So it's kind of cool to kind of flip through the pages. And as you hit those periods of their life where they first encountered these people, you'll see them hop in there. I mean, we've got like Terry Funk, Typhoon, Tugboat, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Bill Alfonso. I mean, it goes on and on. Steve Kern, Brian Blair, all these guys are all in there.
Amazing. So before I talk about the book with you, Mr. Williams, I have a question. I don't know how much of the current product you follow, but do you know there's a new wrestler called Butch in WWE now?
There's a new, Butch. There's another one, he's an Englishman from UK. I met him on an independent show. One hell of a worker. He's one hell of a hand. He's only about he's about 190. Excuse me. He's about 190 pounds, 200 pounds, but one hell of a worker.
And what do you think of him taking the Butch name? Is that fine with you?
Yeah, that's fine with us. That's fine with us. Hey, my life, I came up through the ranks and people helped me. But when we come to North America, we were already a proven team. And that because we'd worked around Singapore, Bangkok, Japan, through Thailand and that. So, but I like to see talent coming up and getting a break. It's good to see. Wanted when he was I thought that he would stay in NXT because of his size, but they've brought him up into a great situation, and I love that. I love that scene. Two big guys and a little guy like him that wants to get his nose and everything.
Amazing. Also, I mean, again, before we dive into the book, I had to ask you this. I mean, I have spoken to you a few years ago. We spoke about everything related to pro wrestling, so I know what the book is probably like. You have so many stories to share. But back then, Vince McMahon was in charge of the company. How do you think Vince McMahon stepping down as the head of the company will impact WWE?
I don't think it's hurt it very much. I don't think, because the daughter was always there, Hunter was always there, right? And they know Vince inside out. And I still think Vince is sitting behind the scene. He's been in the business. He's been in the business since the late 70s or the 80s, working for his dad, and then taking over. And I think that how can he let it go after being there from 80 to 43 years doing it? It's in his blood. He'll still be there somewhere.